From a modest defender who retired at the age of 24 to a translator for various coaches, thanks to his excellent command of English, he rose to become the Special one of the greatest managers in history. He achieved the seemingly impossible feat of winning the Champions League with Porto in 2004 and subsequently led Chelsea to back-to-back league titles after a 50-year drought. He delivered the greatest season in Inter Milan's history by securing the historic treble in 2010, eliminating Guardiola's Barcelona in the semifinals, and defeating Bayern Munich 2-0 in the final. He also led Real Madrid to a historic league finish in 2011, becoming the first team ever to reach the 100-point mark in a single season. Mourinho was not merely a coach. He was a psychological leader who transformed players into warriors and turned every match into a battle that had to be won. In 1987, the young defender José Mourinho, then 24 years old, decided to retire from football. This decision was not prompted by injury or health issues. Rather, it was a shrewd move. Mourinho was well aware that he was a modest player and realized he would not go far in his playing career. Consequently, he chose to leave the pitch early to dedicate himself to studying sports science and coaching and to obtaining coaching licenses rather than wasting years on an unremarkable playing career. After securing his coaching license in the late 1980s, Mourinho did not immediately land a job managing a major team. Instead, he started from scratch and worked his way up, step by step. In 1989, he began coaching youth teams at Vitória de Setúbal. In 1992, Sporting Lisbon signed the legendary English manager Sir Bobby Robson. Since Robson did not speak Portuguese, he needed a translator fluent in English, so Mourinho was chosen for the task. This marked the true turning point in Mourinho's life. Mourinho did not merely translate words. He explained tactical concepts to the players, discussed strategies with Robson, and participated in analyzing opponents. Before long, Robson realized he was dealing with someone who possessed the mindset of a coach, not just a translator. When Robson moved to Porto in 1993, he insisted on taking Mourinho with him. In 1996, Barcelona appointed Robson as head coach, and, as always, he brought Mourinho along as his assistant. Despite the success Robson and Mourinho achieved at Barcelona, winning the European Cup Winners' Cup, the Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup, it was not enough. Success at Barcelona hinges on winning the Spanish league title, and the team finished the season in second place with 90 points, just 2 points behind the champions, Real Madrid. The club decided to appoint Robson to an administrative role and bring in Van Gaal as head coach, a move the team had desired since Johan Cruyff's departure, driven by their admiration for Van Gaal's coaching style and philosophy, particularly following his immense success with Ajax. Upon taking charge, Van Gaal decided to keep Mourinho on his coaching staff. Having recognized that he was far more than a mere translator, Mourinho was skilled at analyzing opponents and adept at explaining tactics to players in various languages with exceptional clarity. Over time, he became one of Van Gaal's closest assistants. It was here that Mourinho learned from Van Gaal that the team is more important than any individual star, and that discipline and commitment are paramount to success. For Van Gaal was known as one of the strictest and most disciplined coaches of that era. Mourinho remained at Barcelona with Van Gaal for 3 years, until the opportunity arose for him to realize his dream. In 2000, Benfica offered him his first role as a head coach. He decided to leave Barcelona after spending roughly 8 years learning, first from Robson, then from Van Gaal. He arrived at Benfica having learned from Robson how to win the players' hearts, and from Van Gaal how to win matches. At the time, Benfica was struggling both administratively and on the pitch, and the team had grown accustomed to mediocre results, something Mourinho quickly noticed in the players' lethargic training sessions. He significantly altered the training methods, focusing on the players' mental development and motivation. This approach was reflected in the team's results. Under the leadership of a young new coach, then under the age of 37, the team won 6 matches, drew 3, and lost only 2. Although everyone was pleased with his performance, the time arrived for the club's presidential elections. Villarinho won, a president different from the one who had originally appointed Mourinho. Villarinho informed Mourinho that he would finish the season before leaving the team, but Mourinho was dissatisfied with this arrangement. He insisted that he either stay to complete his project with the team or leave immediately. Ultimately, that is exactly what happened, and Mourinho departed after just 3 months. After Benfica, Mourinho did not find a shortcut to glory. He spent months waiting before agreeing to manage União de Leiria, a club lacking both funds and star players. There, for the first time, he had the time and authority to build a squad entirely on his own terms. He turned Leiria into the league's surprise package, challenging the Giants and ultimately leaving the team in 4th place. When Porto needed a savior, they didn't look for a famous manager. Instead, they turned to the man who had been toppling giants with the modest resources of a small club. That was the moment Mourinho's true story began. On January 23, 2002, Mourinho left União de Leiria to take charge of Porto, succeeding Octavio Machado. Porto was sitting in 5th place, had been eliminated from the Portuguese Cup, and was enduring a season that fell far short of the club's standards. Mourinho was around 38 years old and had never previously completed a full season as head coach of a major club. Yet, rather than speaking cautiously at his unveiling press conference, he made the first bold promise of his career: "I am certain we will be champions next season." As for the current season, he noted that winning the title was still theoretically possible, though it no longer depended solely on Porto's results, given that the team would not face Sporting or Boa Vista again. Just 3 days after his appointment, he led Porto against Marítimo, securing a hard-fought 2-1 victory. He then won his next 3 matches against Varzim, Benfica, and Vitória de Setúbal. Porto had been sitting at the bottom of their group with just 1 point from 2 matches before Mourinho took charge. On February 19, 2002, they faced Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. Mourinho's Porto put in a formidable defensive and tactical performance, suffering a narrow 1-0 defeat against the seemingly invincible Galacticos. In the subsequent match, they lost 2-1 to Real Madrid again at the Antas Stadium. They finished the group stage in last place with 4 points and were eliminated from the tournament. Porto concluded the 2001-02 season in 3rd place with 68 points, behind Sporting and Boavista, without winning any trophies. A season in which Mourinho attempted to salvage what he could came to an end, giving way to a new campaign for which he enjoyed a full preseason preparation. This afforded him the time to select his squad, drill them in a new tactical system, and ready them to compete across 3 competitions, while effectively rotating the lineup without a drop in performance. Mourinho retained the team's core, players such as Deco, Vitor Bahia, Costinha, and Ricardo Carvalho. He bolstered the squad with players who suited his style, including Derlei and Nuno Valente from União de Leiria, Paulo Ferreira, and Maniche. Perhaps his best move was bringing back captain Jorge Costa, who had been sidelined following a dispute with the previous manager. Costa's return was not merely a tactical decision. It reintroduced a strong, club representative personality to the dressing room, and he became the man who conveyed Mourinho's messages to the players. The league season kicked off on August 25, 2002, with a 2-2 draw against Belenenses. The result was far from ideal, given Mourinho's promise to win the title, but the team bounced back with victories over Boavista and Gil Vicente. On September 19th, they began their European campaign by thrashing Polonia Warsaw 6-0 in the UEFA Cup. Just 3 days after that European triumph, the first major crisis erupted within the dressing room. Mourinho clashed with Vitor Bahia, a legendary figure for both the club and the Portuguese national team. Mourinho had dropped him from the squad for the match against Vitória Guimarães. A dispute subsequently broke out during training on September 22nd, and after Bahia spoke to the press, the club suspended him from all activities, citing serious incidents. This stance sent a message to the rest of the squad. Mourinho, a coach who had yet to complete a full year at a major club, was prepared to confront the team's biggest star, sparing no one when it came to discipline. In the return leg against Bologna, the team lost by 2 goals but advanced with a 6-2 aggregate victory. Subsequently, they overcame Austria Wien in the UEFA Cup, followed by the French side Lens. At the same time, the team began to establish itself at the top of the league, transforming from a side that merely achieved good results into one that was incredibly difficult to beat. By the end of 2002, Porto was mounting a strong challenge for the league title, had qualified for the European knockout stages, and remained in contention for the Portuguese Cup. For the first time, Mourinho had to manage 3 fronts simultaneously. This marked the introduction of squad rotation in the practice of adapting the style of play to suit the specific opponent. As the new year began, Porto was extending its lead in the league while simultaneously advancing in the Portuguese Cup. In February, they faced the Turkish side, Denizlispor, in the UEFA Cup, winning the first leg 6-1 and drawing 2-2 in the return leg. The team was scoring prolifically in Europe while maintaining its domestic dominance. However, in the UEFA Cup quarterfinals, Porto suffered a 1-0 home defeat against Panathinaikos. It was a precarious situation given how formidable the Greek side was on its own turf. Yet Porto's fans applauded the players after the match rather than turning on them. Before the return leg, Mourinho remarked, "I am a football coach, not the Messiah." He sought to downplay the notion that a coach alone could work miracles, placing the responsibility for executing the tasks squarely on the players. In Athens, Derley scored a goal that leveled the tie, then added a second in extra time, securing a 2-0 victory for Porto and sending them through. This was more than just a comeback. It was the night the players began to believe they could win away from Portugal at the toughest venues. In early April, Porto defeated Vitória de Setúbal 3-0, maintaining a 13-point lead at the top of the league. Mourinho rested Deco in preparation for the match against Lazio, illustrating how he had begun balancing competitions rather than treating each game in isolation. Lazio took an early lead, but Porto produced one of the finest performances of the Mourinho era, winning 4-1. Maniche, Derley scoring twice, and Helder Postiga found the net. Despite the scoreline, Mourinho refused to declare the tie won, regarding the team as having merely completed the first half of the contest. By mid-April, Porto was leading the league by a wide margin, had reached the Portuguese Cup final, and was on the verge of the UEFA Cup final. In the return leg in Rome, they drew 0-0 with Lazio to advance, though they lost Helder Postiga to a red card, ruling the striker out of the European final. On May 4th, 2003, Porto clinching the league title with 4 rounds to spare, establishing a lead that was impossible for Benfica to overcome. Thus, Mourinho fulfilled the promise he had made upon his appointment, leading Porto to the championship in his first full season. On May 21st in Seville, Mourinho faced a date with history in the UEFA Cup final against Celtic. Before the match, he kept his attacking setup under wraps. While he had decided on the lineup, he refused to reveal whether he would play a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 formation. The absence of Postiga left his counterpart, Martin O'Neill, uncertain about which strikers would start the match. The match began with high tension between the two sides, both eager to claim the title. Porto took the lead through a goal by Derley in the final minute of the first half, but just 2 minutes into the second half, Henrik Larsson equalized. Porto regained the lead following a brilliant pass from Deco, yet 2 minutes later, Celtic fought back again with a header from Larsson. The match went to extra time, and with approximately 5 minutes remaining, Derley scored the winning goal. Porto secured the title, and Mourinho made history while still a young coach. The club's first ever UEFA Cup victory was achieved under his leadership. Mourinho later described the match as a deeply emotional final for him, as the outcome remained undecided until the very last moments. Days after the final, Porto concluded their league campaign with a 2-0 victory over Sporting, finishing the season with 86 points and 73 goals, an 11-point lead over Benfica. On June 15th, Mourinho was poised to secure the first treble in the club's history. The match was against União de Leiria, the club Mourinho had previously managed and where Derley had also played. Derley scored the match's only goal in the 63rd minute. Mourinho ended the season having delivered even more than he had promised the fans. By winning the Portuguese League, the UEFA Cup, and the Portuguese Cup, He won the hearts of the Portuguese people and secured his place in history.